The Weekend Rental, Ridgefield Valley of Appalachia, the Crawlspace hatch. The listing made it sound like a miracle. Peaceful mountain home tucked deep in Ridgefield Valley in Appalachia, it read. Rustic charm, quiet, perfect for unplugging. There weren't many photos, just enough to show a weathered porch, a cozy living room with old furniture that looked staged, and a kitchen that had been updated just enough to hide how old the bones were. For Mara and Clint Rowan, that was perfect. They weren't wealthy, they weren't dream home shopping. They were just sick of city life and sick of hearing sirens at night. Clint had gotten remote work. Mara had a small online craft business that could run anywhere. They wanted trees, air, space, and Ridgefield Valley gave them all of it. When the papers were signed, the realtor handed them the keys like it was nothing more than a normal transfer. No warnings, no awkward, just so you know. No story behind the place. The only thing she said, almost like an afterthought, was that the previous family had moved on quickly. Estate sale stuff, she'd added, cheerful. Old people die. Younger people don't want the work. So the Rowans moved in. They painted a few walls. They restained the porch boards. They replaced a couple windows. Clint fixed the internet booster and put a small router in the living room like he was planting a flag. For a few weeks, it was everything they wanted. Even the silence felt clean. At least, during the day. At night, Mara noticed Clint stayed up later than usual. Not watching TV, not scrolling. Just sitting with his laptop closed, staring out the window toward the trees as if he expected the woods to do something. "What?" she asked one night, halfway joking. Clint blinked. "Nothing. I just thought I heard something outside." "A deer." "Yeah," he said quickly. "Probably." They both smiled and went back to pretending it was normal. But the truth was, the valley wasn't quiet. It was simply waiting. The visitors. By late October, Mara wanted to celebrate a housewarming weekend. Something small, just to make the place feel real and safe, like it belonged to them now, not to the woods. They invited two of their closest friends, Eli and Raina Foster, a couple who had been with them through everything. Weddings, job losses, breakups, the whole messy history of adulthood. Eli texted back immediately. "Cabin weekend? Yes. We're bringing whiskey." Raina followed with, "If there's no cell service, I'm suing you both." Mara replied with laughing emojis. She didn't mention the occasional night noises, because what could she even say? The house was fine. It had to be fine. The Fosters arrived Friday just after dark. Their headlights washed over the porch, and Mara opened the door while Clint carried bags inside like a hotel bellhop. Raina stepped onto the porch and stopped mid-laugh. She looked past Mara toward the trees. "Okay," she said slowly. "This is creepy." "It's not creepy," Mara insisted. "It's peaceful." "It's something," Eli added, grinning. "The woods are practically leaning in." Clint laughed too loudly. Come in, we've got food." They all ate, drank, and played cards at the dining table. The house warmed with voices and music, and for the first time since moving in, Mara felt like the walls relaxed, like the house itself liked being occupied, or maybe that was the whiskey. Raina explored like she owned the place, opening drawers, poking into corners. At one point, she walked into the kitchen and froze. "What's that?" she asked. Clint glanced over. "What's what?" Raina pointed at the floor, the crawlspace hatch, a square toggle black metal ring in the center. It sat a few feet from the pantry. It didn't look dangerous. It looked like a door you shouldn't have in a kitchen. Mara shrugged. "Old houses have weird stuff. We don't use it." Eli leaned down, rapped his knuckles against it. Thunk. "Hollow," he said, amused. "Perfect place to hide a body." "Eli!" Raina snapped. "I'm kidding." Clint smiled, but it was tight. "Please don't mess with that thing." Eli lifted his hands. "Yes, sir." And just like that, the moment passed. Except Mara noticed Clint watching the hatch longer than necessary. Friday night. They set the Fosters up in the guest room, same bed, same hallway that swallowed flashlight beams. Mara didn't know that. She couldn't know. At midnight, the house went quiet again. Clint and Mara climbed into their room and fell asleep fast. For the Fosters, it took longer. Raina lay awake in the dark, staring at the unfamiliar ceiling. Eli snored softly. And then... scrape. Raina sat up. The sound came again, slow, dragging, like furniture being moved carefully across wood. At first, she assumed it was the house settling, but the sound didn't match settling. Settling was random, popping, cracking. This was steady, intentional. Scrape, pause, scrape. Raina turned on her phone flashlight and aimed it at the floor. The wood was still. Too still. Eli mumbled, half asleep. "What's wrong?" "Listen," Raina whispered. The scraping moved. Not loud, subtle, like something crawling with patience. It traveled away from the guest room, down the hallway, toward the kitchen. Then it stopped. Raina waited, heart hammering. After a long silence, Eli rolled over and went back to sleep. Raina stayed awake another hour, then finally drifted off. And for a while, everything felt normal again. Saturday. Morning was bright and crisp. Golden leaves blew across the porch. The house looked like a brochure. Raina didn't mention what she heard, because saying it out loud would make it real. The four of them spent the day hiking a nearby trail. Clint showed them a creek bed, a rocky overlook, and a place locals called Dead Man's Gap, a narrow cut between hills where the wind screamed no matter the weather. When they got back, the sun was setting, staining the woods orange. Mara cooked chili. They drank again. They joked again. But Raina noticed something. Every time someone's laughter died down, you could hear the house again. Not creaking, not settling, just the faintest movement, like something that didn't breathe right. It was easiest to ignore it with music, harder without. Later, Eli wandered into the kitchen for more ice and returned holding something. "What's this?" he asked. Mara frowned. "What?" Eli held up a small black screw. Clint's eyes sharpened instantly. "Where did you find that?" "In the kitchen," Eli said. "On the floor near the hatch thing." Clint stood up so fast his chair scraped. "Don't touch it." Eli laughed. "Bro, I picked up a screw." Clint looked like he might punch him. Mara stepped between them. "Clint." "Hey, relax." Clint forced a smile. "Sorry, I don't like that hatch. It weirds me out." Raina stared at him. "Why?" Clint hesitated, then lied. "I don't know. Old houses, bugs. I don't want anything crawling up." Eli smirked. "No haunted crawlspace monsters. Got it." Clint didn't laugh. Mara didn't either. Saturday night. They slept later than usual. More drinks, more exhaustion. This time, Raina fell asleep quickly. But Eli woke around 2:40 a.m. needing the bathroom. He shuffled down the hallway half blind, yawning, one hand on the wall to guide himself. That's when he saw it. The kitchen was darker than the hallway, except for a sliver of pale moonlight cutting across the linoleum. And in that moonlight, he saw the hatch. The metal ring was tilted. Not much, maybe an inch, but enough to make the panel look slightly raised. Eli stopped in his tracks. He stared, trying to convince himself it was just the angle. Then he heard something, a wet shifting sound from below, like something pressing against damp wood. Eli's skin went cold. He whispered, barely audible, "Hello?" The shifting stopped. Silence. Eli swallowed hard and took one step backward. And from beneath the hatch, a sound emerged that wasn't a voice exactly, more like a mouth trying to remember how to speak. A muffled, wet whisper, slow and hungry. "Up." Eli's breath caught. His bladder pain vanished, his body locked. The hatch lifted another fraction of an inch. Then, a pale shape slid into the gap like it had been waiting for the right moment. Not rushing, not panicking. Practiced. Eli stumbled backward, trying to breathe. The kitchen felt smaller now, the air thicker. And that whisper came again, closer. "Up here!" Eli ran, not to the front door, not to Clint and Mara's room. straight back into the guest room, slamming the door hard enough to shake the frame. Raina bolted upright, terrified. "What?" Eli grabbed his phone, shaking so badly he almost dropped it. "It's the floor," he gasped. "The hatch. There's something—" Raina blinked at him like he was insane. Then she heard it too. Scrape right beneath them now. The sound wasn't traveling. It was under the guest room, right under the bed. Raina's voice went thin. "Oh my God." Then came the wet voice again, muffled but eager. "Up." The bed frame trembled. Not much, but enough to prove it wasn't imagination. Raina screamed. Eli lunged for the door. They burst out into the hallway and almost slammed into Clint, who was already there, holding a flashlight like he'd been expecting this. "What happened?" Clint demanded. Eli pointed wildly. "Kitchen, hatch, it opened." Clint's face drained, like confirmation was worse than discovery. Mara appeared behind him, barefoot, panicked. "Clint." Then the scraping started again. Not under the floor, not beneath them. In the kitchen, from the hatch. A slow lifting sound, the faint creak of wood, the hush of something wet sliding upward. Clint whispered, "No." And for the first time since they bought the house, Mara saw real terror on her husband's face. Not fear of noises, fear of truth. The flashlight beam swung into the kitchen. The hatch was fully open now, and something pale was rising, slowly, like it had all the time in the world. If you're enjoying these stories, take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. It helps more than you know, and I appreciate everyone who listens.